Hi, I'm Milena and welcome to another weekly update. I have finished one book, this one, since we last talked, and I've started a bunch of others. I've also had a birthday since we talked last, so I have a little stack of gifted books to show you as well. Starting with the book that I read for the Paws and Pages book club is The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. This is a literary fiction set in the early 21st century. We follow our main character, who is I think 19 at the beginning of the novel. He has had a bad experience at university and he's come back home and he is quite desperate mentally. He also struggles with addiction issues and he meets an older woman who suffers from Alzheimer's, but she helps him get out of the place that he is when they meet. I'm trying to keep this vague because plot-wise there's a lot of things to discover, I think, in this book, and the back also doesn't give a lot away about the plot, just these two characters meeting. And then we follow this boy for a certain amount of time as he gets into new environments and sees and experiences new things, especially connected to human relationships. Thematically, this book was very strong, the way it built together the past and the present. There are so many themes explored. We have war, friendship, family, addiction, relationship with mothers, relationship with school. There's hints towards loss and grief, but that is never really explored a lot in this book, which was one of the things that I may have wanted more of, but thematically I thought this book was very strong. I also really unliked the weird, unlikable characters. I liked unlikable characters because the way they came together in a bit of a forced proximity. It was at work and they clearly were, most of them were there because they just needed an income. The way those relationships worked and were quite unlikely band of misfits is what comes to mind. But I really enjoyed it because I felt like that intense camaraderie just because you spend so much time together, but not because you have any personal links together, really appealed to me. And that is quite a big chunk of the book, which I know some people like less, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I also found family is such a big theme within this book. The main character of this book is the narrator of the book, and he is such an unreliable narrator. And the farther we get into the book, the more you can question his truth because he has quite a big addiction issue. And throughout this book, it becomes quite clear that you're not sure if he's actually able to observe what is happening in his life, and I found that quite interesting. There were also a few things in this book that I didn't quite get along with. I thought the writing was too poetic at times. Listening to the audiobook definitely really helped, but when I was reading purely physically, I had some points where I felt like this is a little bit too overwritten for me, but I think that's very much a personal thing because no one else in the book club felt that way. Something in literary fiction that can often bother me is the way that the author decides to make space for certain characters, places or events, and that I don't always feel it is done very well, where some things can feel very repetitive and other things can feel unexplored, and I definitely felt that at times in this book. Overall, I gave this a 4-star. For me, it's definitely not without its faults, but it was an interesting read. Alright, heading over to my current read. The book that I'm in furthest is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've been reading The Lord of the Rings for a while, but I had a bit of a pause, not necessarily because I wanted to, it just kind of happened. I read the first two books quite close to each other and then I never really got around to reading The Return of the King. Even though I didn't put it on my TBR or anything like that, I just really felt like it. I am currently quite a bit through, I think about a third of the way through, and I'm really enjoying it. Tolkien's writing is definitely not easy, and having had a bit of a break between reading book 2 and this one, there are some characters and some places that I'm like, oh wait, who are you? What are you doing? Where are we? Having watched the films does help because I have visuals of a lot of things, but I still have a bit of a hard time deciding who everyone is, especially when it comes to certain kings and royals. I'm like, I don't remember you. But of course we have our main cast of characters who are absolutely lovely. The hobbits have always been the absolute highlight for me when it comes to Lord of the Rings. Humans I find dull. I'm not gonna lie, like the humans I just don't care about. We have the dwarves and the elves and the hobbits and I love them, but the humans just medieval historical and I don't find them very special. I get a little bit bored when we're hanging out with the humans too much. I want to be in the Shire. I just got to the part where we had a switch of who we follow again. I'm gonna be really vague. Like the plot is really moving and so much tension is built, which I think is such a great talent to be able to do that when you're also writing so lyrical and quite dense as well as Tolkien does. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. Also reading finally, I DNF'd this years ago because I found it too difficult. It's still quite dense, but that is Women Who Run with Wolves. This is a feminist nonfiction from the 1990s. It's very dense, it's very academic, but then it's also hard to say if it's academic because it's so incredibly spiritual, and I feel like a lot of things this author says is something she has experienced herself or conclusions that she has drawn herself. So I don't really feel, can you call it academic? I don't know. I honestly don't have enough experience or knowledge about this. There are places where I read this book and I feel like, really? Really, it's sometimes it feels a bit far-fetched, and I'm not a spiritual person, so for me it just doesn't connect at times, but I still find it interesting. I discussed it a little bit in yesterday's sprint where I felt a little bit more eloquent, so I'll put a few clips of that reading sprint right here before we move on to the other reads. Still working your way through Women Who Run with the Wolves, or is it a definite DNF? I read another chapter today. I'm not religious, I'm not all spiritual, and this book is so spiritual, and I want to be open to it. I think if you want to be inclusive in your feminism or in your humanity, then you have to learn and understand that there are a lot of different belief systems and that they're all valid and they're all worth getting to know. But I think spiritualism, in the sense that this author is talking about it, I find it a little bit difficult, especially because she makes so many connections to biology, which of course, when it comes to feminism in this day and age, can be a bit tricky. I feel like she's saying some not so nice things about fertility and how like fertility and infertility is like spiritual, and I'm like, oh no, we're not doing this. So I hope she will go lightly on that and more on the mythology and the stories that she's talking about, and the sense of having this connection to your creativity I do really like. But then I also feel like that's not necessarily something that I connect to my femininity, but more to just being human, and I don't really see how those experiences are female in a sense. When she talks about suppression in society, that makes sense, but the biology bit of this book is both weird and maybe a little bit red flag, but then it's written in the 90s. I don't know, I'm reading a chapter a day and we shall see. I'm trying to keep an open mind. In last week's weekly update, I mentioned that I was going to read a new Janice Hedlow book. I'm not going to be able to review it yet because I'm not that far in, because as you can see I have a lot of current reads. But that is Rules of the Heart. This plays out in the 18th century and we follow the sister of a famous Duke and Duchess. There was a film about these Duke and Duchess with Keira Knightley and Ralph Fiennes. They played, oh gosh, I don't even know their names, but we follow the sister of the character that Keira Knightley played. And I guess these sisters are known for extramarital affairs because both of them had them a lot. I mean, to be fair, so did their husbands. But we followed not Georgiana, that's the sister, Henrietta, I think the main character is called, as we get to know that she had a really intense love affair with someone who was not her husband. So we follow her when she's in, I think, late 50s in the first chapter, and she just tells us what her life is like now, and then we jump to her being in her 20s, getting married and everything like that. So we just get the story of her life. It's a bit of a slow start, and I do think it's not necessarily easy to connect to the character because clearly she has done, I'm not sure if you can say that she's done a bad thing, but it's not like a beautiful non-red flag like romance because she was married, and we get to know that the man she had an affair with was much younger than she was. So there are things to get over. You have some hurdles to get over before you can get invested with this character. I still don't know how much I really like her. I'm not sure how invested I am that she is going to be okay, which sounds harsh. I'm not super convinced about this one yet, but I am keeping an open mind. I will keep listening to it. And another book that I'm listening to, which is, here we go, a 5-star prediction. This is a romance called Let's Make a Scene by Laura Wood. We follow a character who I had the feeling that she is based on Lily James because she had a similar scandal where she has a relationship with a married man and then it kind of exploded. In this book, that married man told our main character that he was separated, headed towards a divorce, so she kind of felt like, okay, he's available. Turned out he was not. He lied. Oh no. We follow her throughout the first few bits of the book where she tries to repair, I guess, her reputation, and then she gets the chance to make a remake of her very first film with the same male co-star with whom we know some things have happened in the past. And there's gonna be some fake dating involved as well. This is all to save her career, which I don't really like the sound of it, but the way it's written is just so convincing. It's a dual perspective, and the audiobook narrators are amazing. I love them so much. Listen to this on audio, would highly recommend. But the way it's written, it feels like we really get the stories of both these characters. It doesn't feel like we get this typical romance where the author's like, oh, she needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that before we can get to the romance bit. We really have a strong character. There's such fun banter. This is the kind of romance where I wouldn't even mind if there weren't really romance bit, if we just had a kiss at the end and that's it, because I'm having such a good time being with these characters. They're so fun. One thing that I don't usually like in books or in romances specifically is when the characters are incredibly attractive and beautiful, because to me it feels like too easy of a romance, because clearly you have a crush on each other if you're very attractive and very beautiful. The focus isn't really on appearances in this book, and it makes of course sense because both of them are semi or successful actors, and let's be honest, Hollywood people are usually very attractive. The writing is just so solid and so strong in this book that I'm really enjoying it. We'll have to see if it actually becomes a 5-star once I have finished it. So those are my current reads, and then I have a little book haul to show you. This book haul is quite witchy, and I really enjoy that because we're getting into autumn and I love that people have gotten me some witchy books. So my dad got me Wild Tales from Early Medieval Britain by Amy Jeffs. I love this edition. It has some beautiful like rose gold foiling or bronze foiling, which I think is really pretty. So these are short stories, tales as the author calls them, inspired by early medieval literature. It's about women, monsters and animals. It sounds absolutely wonderful, and it's really about the typical British landscapes. It says like sheer cliffs, salt spray, explosive sea spume, thunderous clouds, icy waves, whales with mountains on their backs. This sounds like an absolutely wonderful autumn read. And then the wonderful Lucy gave me this book. I started listening to it in audio, but I felt like, okay, these are too many characters for me to keep hold of when I'm chilling with an audiobook. I want a physical book. I think it was Victoria from What Victoria Read who started to reread this series, and I was like, oh, she likes it so much that she will reread it, then I will give it a read, because the description sounds wonderful. These are all women related to fictional classic characters who come together to do some dark things. The daughter of Jekyll, so Mary Jekyll, she's alone and penniless following her parents' death, quickly finds herself drawn into the secrets of her father's mysterious past. This just sounds amazing. And then we have Hyde's daughter Diana as well as a character. Oh my gosh, we have Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are also in this book. Soon gathers around her more women, all of whom have been created through terrifying experimentation. Beatrice Rappaccini, Catherine Monroe and Justine Frankenstein. And then I think it's a mystery mostly. But these characters, I'm so curious how this author Theodora Goss has done it. I know the book has multiple, I think it's a trilogy, or maybe there are even 4 books, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I'm really excited. I hope it works for me because it sounds so much fun. Again, definitely an autumn read. And then Boy got me these adorable Jane Austen editions. These are the Macmillan editions that are published for Jane Austen's 250th anniversary. He got me Mansfield Park, Persuasion, Northanger Abbey and Sense and Sensibility. And I will, I think, complete the collection with Pride and Prejudice and Emma at some point. But these are so gorgeous. On the inside of these books we have the standard Macmillan like font and illustrations. I do also have the original Macmillan Jane Austen collections, but you know what? I don't think my Jane Austen collection can ever get too big. I don't think so. I now have 2 shelves full of Jane Austen books. Am I finished? I don't think so. And then the wonderful Victoria from What Victoria Read gifted me this beautiful book. I think I saw Mary hold this at some point and I was like, okay, that's for me. And this is The Wheel of the Year, an illustrated guide to nature's rhythms by Fiona Cook and Jessica. Whoa, just the end papers alone of this book are so gorgeous. Okay, so I'll just show you a few pages. It has recipes, activities, crafts. I cannot even tell you how excited I am for this and how much I just love the look of this book. It's so absolutely gorgeous. And I really have a soft spot for anything seasonal. I know I said earlier in this video that I'm not a little spiritual when it comes to serious things, but when it comes to fun, it's a different story. I like all the witchiness and the moon and the seasons and things like that. But when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to philosophy and the way you make decisions, I am not a spiritual person. I want to make pretzels. I will have to find a gluten-free recipe, of course. So only the way I will fold them looks so much fun. I can use this book for, but like, How much fun is this? I will want to do that at some point. And this is the summer time that starts at the 1st of August. I don't know how it's called. I will when I've read this book. So that is this week's update. I hope you had fun hanging out with me, and I will see you next week. Bye!